All right, today is video 2.4. We're looking at notes 2.4, which starts on page 5 of our notes, about halfway down. So we're going to talk about solving multi-step equations, but this time we've got fractions. Now, don't let the fractions scare you, okay? So let's go ahead and look at our list of steps. This is exactly the same thing that we had before. So step 1 was to distribute. This is the same. Step 2 is going to be a little bit different. Step 2, we're going to add a step in between. What we want to do here is we want to clear fractions by multiplying every term by the LCD. And remember, the LCD is just our least common denominator, okay? Then we are going to see if we can collect like terms, just like we did before. And remember, all of this stuff is simplifying each side of our equation, okay? Then we're going to get the variables on one side and the constants on the other. And lastly, we are going to solve. Okay, so let's go ahead and follow these steps. The first example right here is a little bit simpler. Don't let the fractions freak you out. Once we're done with step 2 right here, we're going to clear our fractions. We're not going to have any fractions left over. So once we get to step 3, the rest is easy. So again, don't let the fractions scare you. Okay, so step 1 says to distribute. Well, there's nothing to distribute, so I'm going to move on to step 2. Step 2 says to clear our fractions by multiplying every term by the LCD. So right here, I have a denominator of 5. This has a denominator of 1 technically, and another denominator of 5. So I can identify that my LCD is going to be 5. So that means that I have to multiply every single term by 5. Well, here's one term, here's another term, and here's my third term. So I'm going to multiply by 5 3 times. Remember, plus and minus and equal signs are what separates my terms. So right here, I'm going to write times 5 here, times 5 here, and times 5 here. Well, this 5 and this 5 I know will cancel out, so all I have left over is just 2x. And then 1 times 5 is positive 5, so I'm going to write plus 5. And then this 5 and this 5 cancel each other out, so I end up getting 13. Okay, now that I've done that, the rest of my equation is easy to solve. I've cleared my fractions, it's so much easier to solve. So step 3 says to collect like terms. Well, I don't have any like terms on the left side, and I don't have any like terms on the right side. So let's go ahead to step 4. Step 4 says get the variables on one side and the constants on the other. Well, if you take a look right here, our variables are already on the left side. There are no variables on the right side, which means that I'm going to just want to get rid of this constant right here. I don't want this constant on the left side. So how do I get rid of a plus 5? I'm going to subtract 5. Well, whatever I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So 5 minus 5 is nothing. It cancels out, so I end up getting 2x equals 8. And then my last step is to just solve my equation like I normally would. Since this is multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. So I divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 4. And I'm all set for that question. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try question number 2, and let's follow our steps. So step 1 says to distribute. Well, when I distribute right here, I don't have any numbers in brackets, so I have nothing to distribute, okay? So step 2 says to clear the fractions by multiplying each term by the LCD. Well, our first term has a denominator of 3, okay? Our second term has a denominator of 5, and our third term has a denominator of 15. Therefore, I can conclude that my LCD should be 15. Okay, once I find out what my LCD is, I'm going to multiply every term by 15. So I'm going to write times 15, times 15, times 15. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky. We're going to do our side work right here before we write our new equation. Okay, so the first term that I have here is x plus 3. So I'm going to take x over 3, excuse me. So I'm going to take x over 3 and I'm going to multiply it by 15. Now this 15 is technically over 1. If a number doesn't have a denominator, then we're going to say it's over 1. Okay, so once I do this, I'm going to look and see, can I cancel anything out? Well, this 3 and this 15 are both divisible by 3. So when I divide each number by 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 15 divided by 3 is 5. So right here I can just multiply this x by 5 and I end up getting 5x. And then 1 times 1 is 1, so I get 5x over 1, which is 5x. When you are doing this, if you don't end up with a number that does not have a denominator of 1, if you end up with a fraction, something went wrong, okay? So again, your whole point of doing this is to get rid of your fractions. So this first term right here turns into 5x, okay? Let's do the next term. The next term says 2x. So I'm going to take 2x over 5 and I'm going to multiply it by the 15 over 1. Well, let's see, is there anything that can cancel? This 5 and this 15 are both divisible by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1, 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I get 2x times 3, which is 6x, and then 1 times 1, which is 1, so I end up getting 6x. So I get 5x, don't forget the minus sign, minus 6x. Again, I ended up with no fractions, and that's what I'm trying to do. That's my goal, okay? And then lastly, right here, if I have, negative 7 over 15 right here, and if I multiply that by 15 over 1, what happens to my 15s? The 15s both cancel out and become 1s, so I end up getting just negative 7. So this is equal to negative 7. Okay? Now that I've cleared my fractions, it's just a regular equation. So step 3 is to collect like terms. Well, 5x and minus 6x are like each other. Let's go ahead and use the scoreboard. Team positive won the 5 points, team negative won the 6 points, so team negative won by 1 point. So I can say that this is negative 1x is equal to negative 7. Okay? Once I've done that, I only have variables on the left side and constants on the right side. I can just divide both sides by negative 1. And once I divide by negative 1, I end up getting x equals just plain and simply 7. Okay? Now, this is a tough concept. So if there's anything at all in this video that you didn't really follow, rewind it and rewatch it so you can make sure you understand it. Make sure to write down any questions you might have so you can ask me when you see me in class. Okay? We have 2 more questions. This is a little bit longer of a video because it's a harder topic. So stay with me. Let's do these 2 more questions and then we will be done with our video. All right, so let's take a look at number 3. And if you remember, our first step said to distribute if possible. There's no distributing that we can do. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to find an LCD. So I'm going to look at my denominators. My denominators are 5, 4, and 10. So what's the smallest multiple in common with 5, 4, and 10? It should be 20. So watch this. I'm going to do my work on the side. This is a little bit trickier. Write small because we've got a lot of work on the side that we need to write. So I'm going to take 4y plus 1. So again, I'm going to multiply every single term by 20. Now each one of these right here is considered just one term because it's just one fraction, okay? So I multiply by 23 times. So the first one is 4y over 5 times 20 over 1. Well, what can I divide 5 and 20 both by? They're both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So here I've got 4y plus 1 all times 4. So what I would write down is 4 times 4y plus 1. Okay? If you didn't get that, rewind and rewatch that. We'll do another example right now. Then the next term says y minus 7 over 4. I'm going to multiply that by 20 over 1. Well, I can divide 4 and 20. These are both divisible by 5. So they're both divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So it's 5 times this whole thing. So I'm going to say minus 5 times y minus 7. Why don't I have any denominators? Because they're both 1s, and anything divided by 1 is itself. Okay? All right, let's do the last fraction. The last fraction says 2y minus 5 over 10, and I'm going to multiply this by 20 over 1 again. So what are 10 and 20 both divisible by? They're both divisible by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 20 divided by 10 is 2. So I end up getting 2 times 2y minus 5. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to solve my equation like a normal equation. So if I have numbers on the outside of my brackets, I want to go through and distribute them. So 4 times 4y is 16y, and 4 times 1 is 4. And then negative 5 times y is negative 5y, and negative 5 times negative 7 becomes positive 35. And then 2 times 2y right here gives me plus 35 equals 4y, and then 2 times negative 5 is minus 10. Okay, now do I have any like terms? Absolutely. I've got 16y take away 5y. So let's do our scoreboard really quickly. Team positive won the 16 points, team negative won the 5 points, so together that gives me 11y. Okay, and then 4 and 35 can go together and I get 39. Don't combine these with anything over here because this is the other side of your equation. So then I end up getting 4y minus 10. There's nothing else for me to combine together on the right side. Okay, now just get rid of the 4y by subtracting it. So I end up getting 7y plus 39 is equal to negative 10 because those y's cancel. Subtract the 39. So I end up getting 7y equals negative 49. Divide both sides by 7, which means y equals negative 7. And I am done with question number 3. Okay, so let's take a look at question number 4. In question number 4, the first step that we have here is we need to distribute. So I need to distribute this 2/3 right here and this negative 3/5 right here. Well, 2/3 times 5n over 1, I multiply my numerators. So 2 times 5n is 10n. 3 times 1 is 3. Okay? And then here, anything times 1 is itself. So anything times negative 1 is its negative self. So 2/3 times 1 is 2/3. Therefore, 2/3 times negative 1 is negative 2/3. Okay? And then here, when I do negative 3/5 times n, I just get negative 3/5 n. And then when I do negative 3/5 times 2, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and then 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, now I've got some fractions that I don't like, so I'm going to find out what my LCD is. Well, my LCD, I've got fractions with denominators of 3 and 5. Therefore, my LCD is going to be 15. So let's go ahead and multiply everything through by 15. So my first term is 10n over 3. I'm going to multiply it by 15 over 1. Okay, so this 3 becomes a 1, and this 15 becomes a 5 because they're both divisible by 3. I divided everything by 3. So this becomes 50n. So I can say that this right here is 50n, and I'll just put a line to separate this right here. Okay, next term is negative 2/3. Multiply that by 15 over 1. Well, 3 and 15 are both divisible by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. So I'm going to say minus 10. Okay? My next term that I see here is negative 3/5 n. So negative 3/5 n multiplied by 15 over 1. Well, this 5 and this 15 are both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So I end up getting negative 9n. So this right here is negative 9n. Okay? And lastly, my last term that I have is negative 6/5. I'm going to multiply that by 15 over 1. When I look at this right here, 5 and 15 are both divisible by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3, so I end up getting negative 18. So I get negative 9n minus 18. Sorry, no n there. Okay, now I just go ahead and solve this equation like a normal equation. I'm going to add 9n to both sides. So I get 59n minus 10 equals negative 18. Okay, then I'm going to add 10 to both sides, and I get 59n equals negative 8. Okay, then I can divide both sides by 59, so I get 8, or n equals negative 8 over 59. I'm going to divide both sides by 59 here, so n equals negative 8 over 59, and that's my answer.